All right, what's up, y'all? Okay, Rob back at the corner. I'm still trying to figure out how to do my live stream and learn how to use Twitch live streaming as well as YouTube. But this is my first time doing NFL mock draft. As you know, the 2024 NFL draft is tomorrow night. Will be live here on the channel at 7 p.m. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't missed a draft since 1997. I'm not even kidding. That was Orlando Pace was the first pick of that draft with my then St. Louis Rams. And tomorrow night, it's definitely going to be a wild one, especially with upcoming news that came through a little while ago from ESPN that the Cincinnati Bengals were notified by T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson that they have both requested to be traded. So, could they possibly be a part of a trade package in tomorrow night's draft? We'll have to keep an eye out for that. And another team to also look out for, besides the fact that they have the number one overall pick, is the Chicago Bears, who also have the number 9 pick. What could they do with that? There are teams looking to move up to get a quarterback, the Raiders being one of them, the Minnesota Vikings being one of them as well. Or do the Bears decide to be aggressive and keep the pick and use it to move up for themselves? There's a whole lot to get into, of course. This draft is very, very heavy on quarterbacks. And as I said, I'm still learning how to use all of this. But we will be using NFL Mock Draft Simulator at Pro Football Network to do our mock draft. And we're going to go ahead and get into it. As I said, you're not going to be able to see it. Just going to take my word for it for right now as I'm still learning. So we'll go ahead and get into this. And with the number 1 pick, I would absolutely be taking Caleb Williams if you're the Chicago Bears. You don't spend all the money that they've spent in the offseason and made all the moves on offense that they've made without the idea of drafting your franchise quarterback. The Bears went and acquired Keenan Allen from the San Diego Chargers and DeAndre Swift, I should say, to complement their backfield with Deontay Foreman. You now have Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and a Cole Kmet, who is a very solid pass catching tight end. You don't make all those moves without saying, hey, we're going to go get a franchise QB. This is our dude, undisputed. You don't do that. Now, there are questions about culture and whether Caleb will fit in with Chicago, because as you know, Chicago is one of those cities when it comes to football and just sports in general. Culture really matters over your ability. And people have called that into question with him. We will see, and I hope that it works out really well for him. But I just don't think I don't see a scenario where the Bears don't take Caleb Williams first. I really don't. Second overall pick, and I think this has big boom or big bust potential. Drake May of the North Carolina Tar Heels, second overall to the Washington Commanders. I don't think that's necessarily going to fix everything in DC. You got to build around this kid. He is raw, but he's got incredible physical tools. And that's what teams look for nowadays in young quarterbacks that aren't necessarily ready out of the box is guys with huge physical upside that you can develop and mold. Case in point, Josh Allen. Josh Allen was not ready whenever he took over. The guy was more of a running quarterback with a big arm, but he wasn't a passer. With the right coaching, he developed into a passer. Will they have that in DC? I don't know because they're still cleaning up the Dan Snyder mess. So I would have Drake May go second overall. I think that makes sense. I really do. Third overall pick, the New England Patriots. Man, let me tell you something. They're just bad. All across the board. This is a brand new era in Foxborough. No Bill Belichick. Gerard Mayo, who is an excellent linebacker. He's been a highly regarded defensive coach. Now is the head man for the Patriots. They are bad everywhere and need help all over that offense. Is this a case of you go get your franchise quarterback and then you build around him, or wait for later and get the best player available? The Patriots do have an interesting situation here. Jaden Daniels is on the board, obviously. He's the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, which is, I also like to say, pretty wild that you have two Heisman Trophy winners in a draft that are going to go into the top five, because this is where I would take him, me personally. However, like I said, they're so bad. I think the best player in this entire draft is Marvin Harrison Jr., but I don't see the Chicago Bears taking him and doing some and being aggressive with that number 9 pick, which they could possibly swap up with, say, in Arizona or Los Angeles Chargers. They could do that. I just don't see it. I think that New England is going to build around Jaden Daniels. He will go third to the New England Patriots. Fourth overall pick is the Arizona Cardinals. There's a lot of rumors about them possibly trading down, which I can buy. I really do. And honestly, in this case, I don't have them doing that, but I'm not shocked if the Cardinals decide to do a pick swap with a team that wants a quarterback right now. And obviously, that team I'm talking about sits at 11, and we'll get to them shortly. But the Arizona Cardinals right now, you got to get best player available. You're trying to keep Kyler Murray happy. You just lost Hollywood Brown, a free agency where he signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. You want to get the best player in the draft, and they're going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. This Rams fan's not a fan of it, but hey, what are you going to do? Marvin Harrison Jr. is an absolute stud. Uh, I know there's a higher likelihood of wide receivers busting than being successful in the NFL, especially going very high. But we've seen in the last few years, Jamar Chase went inside the top five, and I think he's worked out. You know, Arizona has the opportunity to get a game breaker and a possible Hall of Fame caliber talent in Marvin Harrison Jr. So I have him going number four. And then we get to the Chargers at 5. This is the wild card. Jim Harbaugh is now their head coach. You've got Justin Herbert, and we know about all the talent he has. Does he have the best support system? No. He does have a coach, though, that I think absolutely believes in him, and that helps a lot. But what doesn't help a lot is the fact that he now does not have Austin Eckler, who signed with Washington. He does not have Keenan Allen, who the Chargers traded to the Bears. What the hell's he got? The pick last year, Quentin Johnston, did not work in his rookie year. We'll see where that takes him. Hopefully, he develops into the player that the Chargers believe that he could be. But right now, it doesn't look promising, and they don't need this pick. This is where we get our trade, and it's going to be a high run on quarterbacks in this draft. But here's the scenario: if the Chargers keep the pick, I think you take Brock Bowers out of Georgia. You don't have pass catchers on this team, and you don't have playmakers. And historically, do taking tight ends inside of the top 10 always works? Not necessarily. Still waiting for Kyle Pitts to have that big breakout year. Just might in Atlanta. But if the Chargers keep the pick, you take Brock Bowers. You've got to replace production everywhere, and he's the second best pass catcher in this draft. I do believe over a Malik Neighbors. You could also take Malik Neighbors. Don't get it twisted. He's a phenomenal talent. But I think you got to build. You've got to build up front, and Brock Bowers is a guy who also can block. He has a high compete level as well. You either invest in Justin Herbert early and say, "Hey, we're going to go get you a dude right now," and not just a player. Go get you a dude, and those guys are dudes, no question about it. Or you trade this pick and compile later. And the only team that is looking up aggressively this high for a quarterback is the Minnesota Vikings, who currently sit at 11. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to do this. So if you're asking me, I'm trading this pick and I'm going to go get guys later because this is a wide receiver deep class. This is here where I trade the pick to the Minnesota Vikings and we swap and the Chargers move to 11. And then here, obviously, J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is every bit of a pro-style quarterback that fits Kevin O'Connell's scheme to a T. And then you insert this guy into an offense that has Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, a healthy Justin Jefferson, and now Aaron Jones in the backfield to give the Vikings offensive balance, which they did not have last year, nor did they have a healthy Kirk Cousins, who is with the Atlanta Falcons now. Looking at JJ's strengths, um, throws very hard, throws hard in the tight windows, makes excellent reads, and he does not make a lot of bad decisions with the football. He's a mature quarterback, and I know that's another way of saying that he's been around a long time, but he's a plug and play guy. And I think he fits what the Vikings want to do like a glove. So this is where I trade. And the Chargers will move down to the 11th pick, and we'll address that later. And I do have them keeping that pick. Sixth overall is the walking dirt factory known as the New York Giants. God bless him. And also, God bless 5 Points Vid. Shout out to him. I know it's a running gag. If you've never seen his channel, do go check it out. That's 5 Points Vids on YouTube. Go check him out. And all of the guys that he works with, Urinating Tree, Tom Grassi, Brandon Perna, aka That's Good Sports, Scooter Magruder. Go check all those guys out. I promise you, worth your time. Anyway, we all laugh at 5 points when the Giants make shitty picks. And to be fair, the last couple haven't been that bad. Kayvon Thibodeau been a good one. Andrew Thomas eventually did turn into a good player. We're not going to talk about Kadarius Toney right now, though. But this is where you got to fix the offensive line because Daniel Jones is on his last shot. This is about it. And you've drafted wide receiver after wide receiver trying to help this guy, get him some weapons, and it just hasn't taken off yet. This is where you get Joe Alt. I think this one fits. He's the best offensive lineman in this draft. You want to go ahead and take him immediately. And he's an absolute man child, 6'8", 320 pounds. Why would you not want that? And the scary thing is he's a converted tight end out of Notre Dame. So his footwork is absolutely excellent. He's very athletic, and now he's 6'8", 320 pounds. And you're in a division against Micah Parsons, and you need and DeMarcus Lawrence, and I got that right. I'm still trying to wake up, y'all. But DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons, and then all the pass rushers that the Eagles have, and I know Fletcher Cox just retired, but what Philly still has is a problem there. You need protection. Quarterback can't throw the ball if he's on his back all the time. So you got to take Joe Alt here. Pick number 7. I think we go back-to-back on offensive linemen. The Tennessee Titans are going to make a very Tennessee Titans pick. Flashy, but not flashy or spectacular, just solid because that's how the Titans think. And they're retooling right now around Will Levis and new head coach in Nashville. You got to go Olaf Ashanu out of Penn State. He's another plug-and-play guy. Say what you will about the Titans, but there's one position they don't really miss, and that is on the offensive line. Got to give them credit there, no question. Pick number 8 is the Atlanta Falcons. They went out and spent a buku amount of money on Kirk Cousins, giving him a 4-year deal, well over $150 million at the age of 35, coming off of a torn ACL. Not every quarterback at that age and that point in their career can say, hey, just got a $150 million contract. That I digress. He's been given weapons. You give him Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, strong offensive line. Atlanta's defense is very good, but their one weakness is getting to the quarterback, and there's no reason not to take Dallas Turner out of Alabama right here. He was the edge partner with Will Anderson during their time with the Crimson Tide. I don't see how you don't go get this guy. His TFL numbers were absolutely stupid last year, and 6'2", about 245. Very, very explosive guy, can absolutely get into your backfield. Atlanta needs that. And to complement Calais Campbell, who's not getting any younger, but somehow this guy keeps playing at an elite level, and he's been in the league now. I think this will be his 16th year in the NFL. I don't know how, but he's an anomaly. And of course, All-Pro Jesse Bates, which was a great get. But I think they bolster their defense, and honestly, I all depending on Kirk Cousins' health, the Atlanta Falcons will win the NFC South, and you will not see them inside of the top 10 next year because there's no reason for them to be inside of the top 10. Pick number 9, this is the Chicago Bears. This is another situation where people were 50-50 on whether the Bears keep the pick or not. And I think they do here. And they also still struggle to get to the quarterback for all the moves they've made upgrading the offense. And they did acquire Montez Sweat last year, which did boost their pass rush. They still need more. And the guy I have them taking is someone that originally is projected to go to my Los Angeles Rams late at pick number 16, but I got them. It's a bit of a stretch, just like a slight stretch, but I have them taking Latu, the edge rusher out of UCLA. And he's a big boy, 6'4", 260 pounds. Looking at his strengths here, explosive runner and elite hip flexibility, which means he can bend and create matchup nightmares and one-on-ones with blockers. And if you're the Bears, you need that. You absolutely need that. You're trying to keep up with the Detroit Lions in the NFC North. The Packers are coming along and continuously improving. They made the playoffs and had a surprising run. The NFC North is a tough division, and Chicago needs dudes that can get to the quarterback and create plays. And also, when I said catching up to the Detroit Lions, you can't get to the quarterback in that division when you're playing against Detroit because they arguably have the best offensive line in the entire NFL. And also, shout out to Detroit extending Panay Sewell on a 4-year extension and Amon-Ra St. Brown, both guys over $100 million contracts. They got the bag today. Big shout out to them. And now we get out of the top 10 with our favorite meme, the New York Jets. If you're a Jets fan out there, I am very, very sorry for all the alcohol you've had to consume by being a fan of this team for so long. Last year you got Aaron Rodgers. It was supposed to be great. All the hype, the Monday night football game against Buffalo. He gets hurt immediately. Second play from scrimmage, I believe it was. All bad. And then you trade Zach Wilson for whatever that's worth to the Denver Broncos this week. I woke up to that news. I was laughing my ass off because I couldn't believe that the Broncos, no matter if they gave up a day 3 pick, still went and got Zach Wilson. Like, we'll fix him. But if you're the New York Jets, obviously the defense is outstanding. Sauce Gardner, Quentin Williams, all those guys. You got some talent on the offensive side. Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, I love as a running back. Alan Lazard is solid, and then you have the merry men of Aaron Rodgers' friends that all came along. But you got 1 year with him left to make this work. And this is where I have them taking Malik Neighbors out of LSU. You get 1 year Aaron Rodgers before you have to go figure the quarterback situation out again. And you need to go get that team an explosive playmaker right now. That is my pick for the New York Jets. Malik Neighbors out of LSU. And he will be one of 2 LSU Tiger receivers I have going inside of the first round this year. And then pick 11 on my board is the Chargers after the swap with the Minnesota Vikings. And this is another case of we have a lot of deficiencies that need to be fixed on this defense, and their secondary is awful. I think this is where you go get Terrion Arnold out of Alabama to be your new number 1 cornerback. They have not had any luck with corners, where there's been guys like Jason Verrett who were good, but they were not healthy throughout the majority of their career. The J.C. Jackson signing has been a nightmare. So I think you need to retool and restart in that secondary. You go get Terrion Arnold out of Alabama to be your new lockdown cornerback. And then moving on to number 12 and the Denver Broncos, which also I'm not feeling their new uniforms at all. I don't know what's going on there. I'm not feeling it though. So they just traded for Zach Wilson, and it involved a 6th and 7th round draft pick, which I believe they acquired a 7th. And if you're going to make Zach Wilson your guy, if you are, because I believe they will, you better go get him a wide receiver. You did just lose Jerry Jeudy to free agency. He signed with the Cleveland Browns. Make sure you're going to give him a weapon. And I would say this will be the first of, you'll see a few receivers from the University of Washington, but the first one obviously Roma Dunze, and I'll have him go here at 12 to Denver, simply because you don't have a lot to work with. And Sean Payton, I think this is a case of he believes that because he coached Drew Brees for a lot of years, he can fix anything. So he's trying to get his Andy Reid on and be a quarterback whisperer. Here's the difference. Drew Brees had already established himself as a very good NFL quarterback by the time he got to New Orleans. This is not the case. Zach Wilson has not had good coaching. To be fair, in all fairness, he hasn't had the greatest coaching, but more often than not, he ain't looked like that guy. He's had some moments, and I know last year against the Chiefs, he vastly outplayed Patrick Mahomes, and that was awesome. Don't get it twisted. But this is definitely a prove it deal. If it doesn't work out, I think this is his last shot at being a starter in the NFL. But you go ahead and you give him an opportunity to prove it, and give him Roma Dunze, and he could go on to become a number one guy for them. So that's why I have going 12 to Denver. Number 13, the Las Vegas Raiders. Now this one is interesting. They did bring in Gardner Minshew to replace to fill in their quarterback's room because they cut Jimmy G in that terrible contract. Aiden O'Connell was serviceable, but I tell you what, he's not a guy. He's not the guy. And Uncle Rico is a good fill-in guy, but a long term, no. And this is why, and it's not a best available, but this does feel more of a need long term. The Raiders don't have a good quarterback room, and I believe this is where you take Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington, and he is listed. He's listed as a guy projected to possibly go as late as the early second round. But I just believe this is a case of the Raiders got to fill that quarterback room up, and he can be your long term guy. He is left handed, so offensively, the Raiders would have to change their scheme and their blocking to protect his right side as his blind side. I would honestly take Michael Penix Jr. He throws a beautiful ball. He is a very, very hard thrower, but he also proved to be very clutch in late game situations, especially the Oregon game last year. If you did not get a chance to see the way that one ended, he led an amazing drive to get the Huskies in a position to kick the game winning field goal. I go Michael Penix Jr. here. 14 is the New Orleans Saints. They're not in a good cap situation. The defense is talented, but is getting older. Obviously, Cam Jordan, not a young man anymore. Demario Davis is still a stud. However, he could probably use some help. Honey Badger, of course, but that defense does need a shot in the arm, and you've got to replace and start getting ready for life after Cam Jordan. And this is where I go with Jared Verse, the edge out of Florida State. He's an absolute beast, and of course, the Seminoles had a great year last year. Um, he is a hard guy to defend. The only knock on him is, have we seen all of what he's going to be? He will be 24 by the time the 2024 season starts. So where is the upside? Is there any left? Because normally by this time you know what a player is. But I still think that you've got to look for life after Cameron Jordan and start getting ready to retool that defensive line. And I know they got started last year with Brian Brzee out of Clemson, who's done a solid job. However, you need an impact edge rusher, and this dude is a bull. But how much better can he get? Like I said, usually by 24 years old, a guy may be getting ready to look at a second contract. So we will see, but I think that's a good pick. That's a good fit. 15 is the Indianapolis Colts, who are solid all across the board. Obviously, the wild card is Anthony Richardson's health. The question you can always ask is, if he was healthy last year, do the Colts make the playoffs? They did very well with Gardner Minshew, and of course, they got eliminated on that final drive with the running back dropping that ball, which that was soul crushing to watch. Saw that in real time. It's like that meme in The Simpsons, or where Bart says, "Look, Lisa, you can pinpoint the exact moment where his heart gets ripped in half." That was it. Because a win for the Colts would have clinched them the AFC South and at least one home playoff game. But I still think they're in a really good position. They're solid all around. You want to protect Anthony Richardson, and so I think this is where you want to go Amarius Mims. Either Amarius Mims or Tylisi Fuaga out of Oregon State. Taking a look at both guys, Fuaga 6'5", 325 pounds. Because you got to start getting Quentin Nelson some help. As great as he is, he's had some injury problems, and you want to make sure that he's got some support on that offensive line, and you help out Zach Moss, who's proven to be a solid running back along with Jonathan Taylor. The Colts are a very underrated team. They're slept on. They could sneak into a wild card berth next year with the right making the right moves here and having the right amount of luck. You either go there, you go Amarius Mims, who's 6'7", 340 pounds. Now that's a mountain of a man. Um, Long wingspan, meaning he could play left tackle, right tackle. You want that versatility. I think this is where you want to go and take Fuaga though. That's what I would do between the two. He's a little more compact and a little more powerful. So I would go with Tylisi Fuwagi, the offensive tackle out of Oregon State, 15. 16, the Seattle Seahawks, and their secondary. You want to go? I would honestly load up, and I would make their strength an even bigger strength. Because Devin Witherspoon was awesome last year. I would go ahead and add Quinyon Mitchell, the corner out of Toledo, and always, unfortunately, and I don't think it's fair, but it is what it is, and it always has been, and it may always be, is the fact that he did play in the MAC, and skill level is different, but this guy was incredibly dominant. 6 interceptions and 37 PBUs over the last 2 years at Toledo, and I think that he could slot in right now as a number two corner or a nickel corner on a team with a deeper secondary. But you put him with Devin Witherspoon, and you could possibly recreate a new version of the Legion of Boom in Seattle. Now, not he's not as physical as those guys. That's an unfair comparison. But just recreating a strong secondary for the Seattle Seahawks that those fans are familiar with. 6 foot, about a buck 95, solid frame. He could play man. He could play off. You want to have somebody who's reliable enough in various passing situations, and I like that pick. As a Rams fan, no, but as a football fan, I love the pick there. Number 17. Now we move on to the Jaguars, who, let's be honest, they shit themselves last year. They were 8-3, basically had the AFC South locked up, and they blew it, losing 5 of 6. You got to take care of Trevor Lawrence, and this is where I think you go with Marius Mims. Uh, you don't want to pass on if a guy like that is available in the mid round. You don't want to pass on that hoss. So that's where I would go. I think that one's pretty easy. Here's where things also get interesting at 18 with the Cincinnati Bengals, especially with the news that Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins want out, and they have formally requested trades. We don't know what's going to happen, but if the Bengals keep this pick, then you have a lot of options here, and I mean a lot. They have a lot of leverage now with this new news being thrown on their lap. If you lose T. Higgins, then you may think, well, we need to go get another receiver to replace. I don't think you do, because the Bengals have plenty enough weapons. But if pass rushers are a premium in the NFL nowadays, it's not like 2001 or 2002 where there's a premium on running backs and and quarterbacks. I mean, it still is, but not to the same degree. It's a different way of looking at things. But if you're the Cincinnati Bengals right now, and you've got an opportunity to replace that edge, you might want to look at a Chop Robinson out of Penn State, because Sam Hubbard, if like you say, if Trey Hendrickson wants out, then Sam Hubbard's by himself. Where's the pass rush for the Bengals? Chop Robinson is a three down guy. He can play with his hand down. He can stand up. And the Bengals are a 4-3 defense, so you wouldn't see a lot of edge guys standing up per se. But he's a big time beast. You want that guy. I also would like to think that you have Johnny Newton out of Illinois, played on some incredible Illini defenses the last couple of years, and because you're playing in the AFC North, and you got to win the trenches when you're playing against the Ravens and the Steelers and the Browns, especially with their offensive line. I think they go defense here. I think it is an absolute necessity. I would honestly either you have those two or you have Byron Murphy the second. who's a little bit more explosive, a little more twitchy as a 4-3 defensive tackle. But for me, I would go ahead and take Johnny Newton out of Illinois. You got to build beef in that division. Um, and I'm going to leave it all on the offensive line to protect Joe Burrow. I wouldn't use a first here simply because they've invested a lot of money into their offensive line and a lot of draft picks, and you got to protect the cash cow. So I would go with Johnny Newton out of the University of Illinois with the 18th pick. And now for me, I look forward for the first time in 8 years, we have a first round draft pick. The last time we had a first round draft pick, my Rams, we took Jared Goff, and that was our first year after relocating. I'm excited about this, but obviously we've got a massive problem. Aaron Donald just retired. I know Kobe Turner had an excellent rookie season alongside Aaron Donald, and he led the team in sacks actually. But it's Aaron Donald, dude. We got to replace that production, and there's no other excuse to go defense. And because he's still on my board, I'm taking Byron Murphy the second out of Texas. I think that one's easy. We go defense. The other player I would love for us to have, but I don't see as an immediate need, is Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. I mean, listen, he is the rare in the modern days, the rare white corner, but he can also play safety, and he also can return kicks. But I think we got to we this is an immediate this I'll admit this is a bit of a reactionary pick, but Murphy's a hell of a player. I want him. So we're going to get him with the 19th pick. Byron Murphy the second leaves Austin, Texas, and comes out to LA. 20th pick goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Boy, what an offseason they've had. Acquiring Russell Wilson, not having to pay out his contract. The Broncos are still eating all of his contract. And then you trade for Justin Fields, which, from my understanding, the Steelers may not be extending his 5th year option after the fact, even though clearly he's there to learn and be molded by Russell Wilson, be with an organization that has actual structure, and possibly be their quarterback of the future. But that's interesting if he does not get his 5th year option extended. But the Pittsburgh Steelers have virtually no weapons on offense outside of George Pickens. Fryermuth is a decent tight end at the NFL level so far, and Najee Harris is good. He's good, not great. He's good. You need wide receivers. You don't bring these quarterbacks in without going to get wide receivers. And you go get Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. He's a big home run threat who played alongside Malik Neighbors and with Jaden Daniels. Their offense was ridiculous. Brian Thomas was ridiculous last year. He's a big 50-50 guy. You want an explosive playmaker to go with the George Pickens. So I think that's where the Steelers go with Brian Thomas with the 20th pick. The 21st pick and the draft goes to the Miami Dolphins, who got absolutely bitched out by the Chiefs last year in the playoffs. And I know that they were very banged up on defense last year, 6 starters down in that game. But this is a team that needs beef up front. On both sides, losing Christian Wilkins in the offseason to free agency, and you got to protect Tua. You just have to. We still have some good offense. There's still good offensive linemen on this board. At 21, I have them going with J.C. Latham out of Alabama, 6'5", 340 pounds. Explosive, gets to the second level very quick, plays with huge punch in his hands, and you need that aggressiveness, especially for a team that has the perception of being very finesse, very pretty, very fun to watch, but doesn't have enough meat up front when it matters the most. And I think you need to address the offensive line if you're the Miami Dolphins. Latham is still on the board for me, so that's where I would go. 22nd pick, this is where the Philadelphia Eagles got to address their secondary. It was terrible last year because the year they went to the Super Bowl, their pass rush was so overwhelming that teams really couldn't get downfield, or wide receivers couldn't get downfield on them. But taking a look and they finished 11-6, but they started 10-1, but they were 30th in the league in points allowed. You can't do that at all. Taking a look defensively last year with the Eagles, they finished with only 9 interceptions last year. They need playmakers in the secondary, and especially at cornerback. So you go with Nate Wiggins here. out of Clemson, who is a lockdown corner. He's a guy. He's very slender, but he is very athletic, very technically sound. If you're worried about him in press coverage, I can understand that because of his weight. He's only about a buck 75. Um, but he's very instinctive. He didn't get a lot of interceptions last year, but I think the fact that he can just shut guys down will absolutely help out the Eagles pass rush, which again, just to clarify, was not bad. Once again, 43 sacks last year. Obviously, the year before was a rare anomaly where let's take a look. They had 70 sacks the year before. It's hard to do that back to back seasons. Let's be real. But I think that this is where they would go with a lockdown corner, and you take a Nate Wiggins at 22. Vikings are again at 23, and I think this is a case where you can go best available, and you want to since you're going to get JJ McCarthy, better get him some offensive line help. If you go acquire Aaron Jones, you better go get some blockers for him. Troy Fatanu is still on the board on for me out of Washington, and he's an excellent offensive lineman. He's likely going to play tackle in the league. I would take him at 23. And how about them Cowboys? Let's go, right? If you're a Cowboys fan, you gotta be mad as shit right now. Jerry Jones has not done a damn thing this offseason to address this team's needs. He's tap dancing around CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. It ain't your year. Just let's go ahead and get it out of the way. It ain't y'all's year. Y'all ain't going to the Super Bowl. Stephen A's going to heat y'all up all year. Man, like I have friends who are Cowboys fans, and they're not the crazy ones that Stephen A makes fun of. Like they're rational and they're irritated because when the biggest move you made in the offseason was signing a long snapper, like what y'all doing? That's trifling. You need dudes. If you are the Dallas Cowboys with all of this bravado, and no joke, I would load up on a big strength of theirs, which obviously you have Trevon Diggs, Deron Bland. Why not go get Cooper DeJean and just add on to it and say, F it, I dare you to throw on this defense? Mm-mm-mm. Like I really do. I think that would be an awesome pick for the Dallas Cowboys to have a versatile football player who can play corner, who can play safety. He can return kicks, and the fact that he could play corner, and you've already got two stud corners in Diggs and Bland, you could possibly just because you could put DeJean in a nickel if you wanted to. He allows a defense so much flexibility and freedom to do things that other teams can't do defensively. Plus he's a return man. I think Cooper DeJean would be an awesome pick there. 25 is the Green Bay Packers, who absolutely teabagged the Cowboys out of the playoffs last year. They had a hell of a run, a very surprising season, if we're going to be honest, and I think they're only going to get better. They were just above league average in scoring, and they were top 10 in points allowed last year, and they were and Jordan Love had himself a hell of a year. He had a let's see, taking a look at his numbers: 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, QBR of 62. He was a top tier quarterback last year, and there's no way around that. Now you do obviously have to replace rushing production with the loss of Aaron Jones, despite the fact that he missed 6 games. But with this team, and I know it's a running joke. Well, they don't take quarterbacks or wide receivers in the first round. No, it's 2002 since the last time they used a first round pick. It's not going to happen this year either. Um, Pass rush is probably starting to dry up a little bit for them, even though they had 45 sacks, but they're getting a little older on the defensive side of things. Um, I think though, I think that's a position you can wait, and you take the kid with the funny name, you take the other cornerback out of Alabama, you take Kool-Aid McKinstry with this pick, and you slot him in and let him be the focal point of your secondary as you go forward. So I got Kool-Aid McKinstry going 25. Pick 26, Tampa Bay. I like Chop Robinson, the edge out of Penn State. It's not a far fall off for him. Or actually, no, we had a Chop Robinson going earlier. Like I said, I am not awake all the way. But no, actually, here you take a look at the Bucks. they surprised last year. Baker Mayfield had a much better season than anybody anticipated. Most folks wrote the Bucks off, but they actually wound up having a season that wasn't that bad. Um, just about middle of the pack, but they got in and gave the Lions a hell of a run. Um, you want to protect Baker Mayfield. He just earned himself a new contract, which major congratulations to him. He's had a tumultuous up and down career, but it seems like he's found some stability in Tampa Bay. You want to get the man some stability, get him some blocking. Graham Barton, an excellent offensive guard prospect out of Duke, is still on the board, and I would put him in at 26. 27, the Arizona Cardinals are still on the board, and um, they have a second first round pick, which is very, very helpful because as I said, I think that the Cardinals are in a position to take best available. But I could also see them wanting to get to appease Kyler Murray even more, get him more skill. They have a good running back in James Conner, underrated if you ask me. So you're trying to replace production with Hollywood Brown. Obviously, you go get Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the Cardinals take the role of the Chargers this year, who are always known for making sexy picks, but not taking the player of need. And in this case, they make another sexy pick, and I think they go a little off the board, and I mean just a little, but they take the man who broke the 40 time record at the combine. They take Xavier Worthy. He is small, but that speed, and he is. I know when people think about 40 times at the combine and guys not working out, you think of John Ross. John Ross was not the most polished route runner in the NFL. He was a dude who was fast, but he did not have next level NFL ability. He was just super fast. Xavier Worthy can play. Um, I mean that 4.21 is nonsense. He broke the internet when he ran at the combine. I think if you're really trying to create an opportunity for the Cardinals to be an explosive offensive football team, you pair him with Marvin Harrison Jr., James Conner, and Rondell Moore, who's their gadget, do everything guy. Again, as a Rams fan, I shouldn't be giving the Cardinals so much offense, but here we are. That's what we're doing. I love that pick just because that kind of speed is terrifying. And you're in a division with the 49ers defense, which is a problem. Rams are very solid across the board, young but solid. Seattle can still give you some fits. You've got to create space. And because you have a small quarterback who doesn't have a big arm, the Cardinals are going to be a team that's going to be big on yards after catch. And you got to get the ball to these guys in space and let them make plays and let them run wild. Clearly, you're trying to create a Tyreek Hill effect, and I like that for Arizona. Pick 28 as the Buffalo Bills, who just they can't they something always happens with the Bills. They can't get over the hump. I've always believed that they're cursed. Um, it's nonsense, quite frankly. I feel bad for their fan base. They got probably the best fans in sports, you could say. Bills Mafia is awesome. They deserve a Super Bowl. I truly believe that. But pick 28 is another for best available for them because their contending window is closing. You would want to go best available. I don't in this case. They go need because Stephon Diggs is gone. And Josh Allen will need a new number one receiver. So we're going to go back to back on Texas wide receivers, and they're going to take a Donnie Mitchell, who is more of a possession guy. Um, Even though he's more twitchy than Stephon Diggs was, even in his prime, who was not a deep threat. Adonai Mitchell is more of a deep threat. He's a 4.3 guy, 6'2", about 210, and he can go up and get it. You want that if you're Josh Allen because you've got to build players that fit his skill set with that rocket arm. You've got to get people that can vertically stretch the field, and I think that's been the problem the Bills have had is not having burners. They did, and they lost Gabriel Davis as well for free agency. So they brought in Curtis Samuel. You need another receiver, and I think that's where they go now. I will be public in saying this: my Super Bowl pick for the 2024 season is the Detroit Lions. They are at 29. What a year Coach MCDC and the Lions had. Now I did get emotional the fact that they weren't able to hold the lead in the NFC Championship game against the 49ers. And also I'm a Rams guy. We don't fuck with the 49ers like that. but I truly believe that the Lions have all the pieces to win a Super Bowl. I really do. And I would run through 40 brick walls for Dan Campbell. Here, they don't need to take an offensive lineman whatsoever. Their offensive line is lock, stock, and barrel, the best in the NFL with Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker and Frank Ragnow anchoring up front. They don't need that. Uh, they hit home run. They hit a home run last year with Jahmyr Gibbs, which everybody questioned at 12. I think Jameson Williams, when he gets fully integrated into the offense, is going to be a massive problem. Detroit has so much balance and control offensively; it's ridiculous. Their defense is got to improve, which I believe it definitely will be because their defense is young all over the floor. Um, Taking a look here, I mean, like I said, with the Lions, they can take anybody if they want to just go ahead and add on to their offensive line. There's a lot of guys that they could go get. Still sitting here, Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma or Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon. If you want versatility, I think I would go with Powers Johnson because he could play anywhere on the offensive line, and he's a big boy, 6'3", 330. So why not make a strength a bigger strength? Like I said, Detroit is in a position to take best available. Um, Now, pick number 30 with the Baltimore Ravens. They don't need wide receivers. Absolutely do not. What they need is an offensive coordinator with a brain because I don't understand how you're the number one rushing team in the NFL last year and you only run 8 designed run plays in the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? I don't know. If you could draft an offensive coordinator, I would if I'm the Baltimore Ravens because that made no damn sense. Like I will go look at that game real quick, and the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs against the run were 18th. Why would you not exploit that? That's another thing for another day because that got me hot watching that game. It didn't make a look of sense. But with the Baltimore Ravens, you go and get Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is still King Henry, but he's starting to slow down just a little bit. But he's still a beast. Go get him some offensive line help. Take Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma with this pick and continue to load up on that offensive line. Again, you're in a division. You're facing Myles Garrett in the Cleveland Browns defense. You're facing TJ Watt. You're facing Sam Hubbard and guys like that in Cincinnati, DJ Reader. You need dudes up front. That's where you win. And he's a huge guy, 6'7", 322 pounds. You want to go ahead and take that. 31st pick goes to the team that should have won the damn Super Bowl. 49ers absolutely blew it. They flat out blew it. I think they go wide receiver here, and they go with Keon Coleman out of Florida State because all signs point to Brandon Ayuk being gone by the time this upcoming season starts. Keon Coleman is a big body, and and that just adds another physical wide receiver presence to go with Deebo Samuel and Juwan Johnson, and of course you got Kittle and CMC and we know the 49ers are stacked, but you want to replace that production that may be gone with Brandon Ayuk because all signs point that he will not be with the 49ers this upcoming season. And of course, you got the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, repeat champions 3 and 4 years. It is an official dynasty as far as I'm concerned. I'm gonna make a bit of a wild choice, and I only say wild because he's projected as about a mid-second rounder on some boards. But he's a player near and dear to my heart because my school, the University of Missouri, had an amazing 2023 season, 11-2, beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. We had a great year. We've got guys that are going to get drafted, and I think that the Chiefs stay home for the second straight year because last year they took an edge rusher out of Kansas State. This time they go edge again, and you take Darius Robinson out of Missouri. He's not a traditional edge because he can play inside. Adding him will just make their front four even more physical, and you've got to start getting ready for life after Chris Jones. And Chiefs fans would love to have an in-state guy. It worked out with Nick Bolton just fine. And I think you go here once again, 6'5", 285 pounds, listed as an edge, but he played defensive tackle in the SEC, and he was an absolute monster on a really good Missouri defense last year. And that is where I would go with Kansas City because you want to create a new dynamic duo with George Karlaftis. because you're getting ready for life after Chris Jones. He's not going to be around forever. And, he was obviously prioritized over L'Jarius Sneed, who signed with the Tennessee Titans, which you'd expect out of loyalty to Jones and everything he's done for the franchise. So that's my first round mock draft. As I said, I'm still learning how to do screen sharing and everything, but I went to profootballnetwork.com. I recommend using that website to do any type of mock drafts. It's a lot of fun, and you can do trades on it and everything. Do it with your friends. Also, the other content creators I mentioned, 5 Points Vids. If you want to check out another one, I know I'll be streaming tomorrow night, but hey, if you want to do dual screen and check them out, theirs is called the Dumpster Fire. So it's him, Urinating Tree, Tom Grassi, Scooter Magruder, Brandon Perna of That's Good Sports, and there's several others that you can check out as well. So I'll have the links to their channels in the description as well. But I appreciate everybody who came in to watch this. It will be up. I will be back tomorrow night at 7 for the 2024 NFL Draft night one of 3. Yes, folks, I'm actually going to stream all 3 nights of the draft. It's a big one. I'm looking forward to it. Until then, I appreciate you kicking it with me, K-Rob. We'll see you in the next one. I'm out.